Oh, I think we broke it loose. Wiggle them side to side. These are some pretty nasty air filters. Wow, there's some big chunks of metal in here. So here we have our T40 Touareg 40 transmission pan drain plug. We can go ahead and disconnect these two transmission cooler lines. Looks like there's just a 10mm bolt holding them down. In order to break the seal, I'm going to slide a flathead screwdriver between the two plates where the bolt goes through. There we go, both lines are disconnected. We're going to let them drain out. I am going to throw this bolt back in so that I don't forget where it goes. I'm going to do this with the majority of the bolts so that I don't have to keep track of where everything goes. I think it'll make my life a lot easier. Looks like there's a good amount of fluid coming out, so we're just going to let that sit for a while and drain completely while we work on other things. These exhaust clamps are very rusty, so I would not be surprised if they gave me a world of trouble. It's kind of fun to be doing this when the fuel tank is right here. Just adds a little bit of excitement. Finally, this guy broke loose. Now, am I going to be able to get my socket out of there? That's debatable. Alright, now that my socket is finally liberated, we can try and free up this clamp, because even though now the nuts have loosened up, because it's so rusty, it's seized up and it's not releasing, so we have to shove something in here to try and spread these two out. Alright, that 40-minute mission is finally over. We can move on to, I suppose since we're here, we might as well do the drive shaft. And I think I'm just gonna unbolt it right here, which I'm assuming is the most common way of doing this, because the transfer case is gonna be coming out with the subframe. Looks like they're held in by 18mm bolts and 18mm nuts. But now that it's unbolted, I think once we do have the subframe unbolted, we can basically just kind of give it a slight forward movement and this is going to come undone. I think that now we can move on to the suspension. This brace right here is going to come down with this subframe because the transfer case is mounted to that. These downpipes, this is actually something I didn't keep track of. I am going to have to unbolt these because the exhaust is going to come down as well, so we need this gone. So mine are damaged in a pretty funny way. This one is bent that way, the other side is bent backwards, so I don't really know how that happened. Maybe they slid off. Anyway, who cares? Luckily the downpipes still have a mounting point mounted to this brace, so it's not going to completely fall off. Even though it is loosened, it's still being held in over here. This mount is just going to come down. While I'm here, I do not want to forget these connectors for the transfer case. We're going to disconnect this plug because it does go into the body, so that would get hung up. And there's another one. Yeah, so this would be the connector for the center diff lock, because this Touareg does have that. And I assume maybe the second plug is for the transfer case. Okay, this should be free now. Let's move on to the suspension up front. So we have the axle, tie rod end, lower ball joint, strut bolt, and I think that's it. I think now is the perfect time for me to unbolt the axle and trying to, Jesus. Sort of kind of hammer the axle in. Once we have the nut completely off, we want to hammer in the axle out of the hub so that it's free to slide out. These do get a little seized in there. Just to give you a little visual of what we're trying to achieve. This is the driver's side axle. As you can see, it's still basically seated. I don't know if I managed to get it out whatsoever. However, this is the passenger side where it definitely came out, and as you can see, we have a big giant gap right there. By the way, the transmission lines are more or less done draining, so I'm gonna throw this little bag on top of them to try and keep any future drips out and away from my floor. Throw a zip tie on top of the bag to keep it in place. The lower ball joint is a 21 millimeter nut. Let's see if we have enough room for my breaker bar in here. You're gonna have to improvise with something else. A ratcheting box end wrench might be all we need. Let's see. It's probably gonna be quite tight. All right. Next is the lower strut bolt, also 21 millimeter. I'm not too sure about what's gonna happen once that bolt comes out. There's a very solid chance that there's gonna be a pretty violent come down, and there's a chance that the brake lines are gonna be the only thing kind of holding the wheel up. We don't want that, as you would imagine. Before there was so much weight on this that I couldn't pull out the bolt, but now as you can see, this took a decent amount of that. I believe the only thing left over here is the sway bar end link, and I'm just gonna disconnect that at the sway bar. 18 millimeter bolt and nut for the sway bar end link, 21 millimeter nut for the tie rod end. I would like to take a little break from hammering that thing, so let's drain my oil. Oh, that's bad. That's very bad. Wow, there's some big chunks of metal in here. There's enough hammering, it should come out, and I think it is. Let's see what happens if we try and pry up on it. Oh yeah, it's coming out. All right, tie rod is completely free. Okay, yeah, this is really not gonna work, huh? I think the upper control arm is giving us way too much support to the point that the wheel just simply does not drop down low enough for the ball joint to slide out. So I think what I could do is just take off the two bolts that hold the lower control arm to the subframe, and then just lift the ball joint out of there. I see no reasons why that shouldn't work. They're 21s. There we go. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Now I have to break this guy loose. Let's see, hopefully this fits in there. Whoa, okay, cool. Where'd he go? Yep, there we go. Woo! So now we just repeat the same process on this side. I'm gonna start with the sway bar end link. Next, this big boy, 21 millimeter right here. Huh, well, that's cool. There we go. Okay, so all we have left is to actually remove all the ball joints and these two bolts and the axle. Ta-da! Ta-da! I should probably try and slide the axle out as much as I can. Inner bushings for the control arm. Okay, for some reason the lower control arm is not. Yes. I think all we have left is the 8 bolts for the subframe. So 4 bolts for the subframe and then 4 more for the brace back here. And there's one more issue. There's an AC line that I think I stripped the bolt for, so I'm gonna have to lower down the car and try and get that out from the top. It's gonna be lots and lots of fun. The line I'm talking about is right here. You can see that bolt being a little scratched up and stuff. The reason why is ideally you'd want to remove the bumper. to access that bolt. It is kind of hard to, I just kind of bent this stuff away and was able to reach it. But potentially, most definitely, most likely, it wasn't a very good angle trying to get that bolt out, and it was a T40 that just, I guess, stripped the bolt. The good news is that the other end of that line, I think, goes probably to the AC compressor. There is something I forgot about, and that is these two connectors right here of the transmission. These connectors are quite hard to get to, which is why I do really recommend using one of these tools, because it's much easier to just pick this tab out instead of trying to pull on the part that's supposed to be pulled by design. So I'm gonna stop it right before the front wheels start touching the ground. Oh yeah, this is gonna be easy. Let's see how this thing works. I had basically just made it by gluing some magnets to basically a household light. Oh, is this hood? This hood is not, I don't know, is it aluminum? I also just remembered that I forgot something else, and it's the power steering fluid. After looking under the car, I know for sure that it's that second line over there. 40? I think it's a 40. Should we try something bigger just in case? Maybe that's why I stripped it. Maybe it's supposed to be a 45. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Don't be like me. Use 45 millimeter Torx. Okay, now that bolt, the T45 is right here, and the line can just pop off. Looks like there was no pressure left whatsoever. Okay, now all that's left is the power steering. And we do need to lift the car up again. There's a clamp right over there. After moving this clamp up, we just have to try and pry the hose off. It's definitely a little cruddy. All right, we gotta get ready for a mess. There's that mess. Once this line is drained and we have no more fluid in the system, I think all I'll have left is that hose going to the power steering fluid tank in the engine bay. And I'll just undo that. Hopefully there's not going to be any fluid left. So while the power steering fluid is draining, I'm going to loosen, not take out, the subframe bolts. I do know that the subframe bolts were recently removed because I was doing that not too long ago when I was trying to take the oil pan off, which doesn't really, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen on the Touareg. You cannot take off the oil pan with the motor still in the car. The subframe bolts are 21 millimeters. So these two are good, and we have two more right above the sway bar end links. We're going to do the same with the cross brace, which is a 16 millimeter bolt. Okay, we have another issue. I think I found one more thing that's going to hold us up, and that is these two hoses right here. I am not entirely sure what they're for. I think they might be gas lines. That's the only thing I can think of that would lead to the back of the car. Where did they even go? It doesn't look to be too bad to remove them. I can just disconnect them right here, supposedly. But I also don't want to be covered in gas. I'm just going to loosen them and hope that we're not going to have a ton of gas come out. Yep. Huh, it's not gas. What the hell is it? It definitely looks like coolant, and I don't know why that would be there. Oh, heater core. Yeah, okay, I didn't know that. So the heater core hoses go in through the bottom. Huh, I did sort of kind of know that, because I know that in the off-roading forums, people have talked about relocating the heater core hoses. Due to them running giant wheels and tires, basically they have to increase the clearance around the wheel to fit bigger wheels and tires. And I guess, yeah, that would make sense for this to be in the way. Good to know, good to know. How much mess is it gonna be when I pop them out? Whoa, that was scary. It would definitely help if I wasn't getting rained on with coolant. I'd be lying if I said that was the first time, so I just gotta keep yanking them and hope for the best. There we go. Disconnecting that line at the bottom did do the trick at draining the power steering fluid. We don't really have anything in there. However, what we do have is the line from the tank going to the power steering pump. So we do have to pull off this hose right here. There we go. Now listen, I'm most likely wrong. I tend to be wrong about things a lot, but I think we are ready to drop the frame, the subframe. First, I need to come up with some sort of a support for the subframe to sit on. There isn't many options for good old jack on dolly method. I mean, that's usually what people do. Now, this is certainly not the best option out there, but I think it's relatively effective. The good news is that these dollies have a capacity of 1,500 pounds. This jack has 4,000 pounds. So together, they're 5,500 pounds. Yes. Let's see if this is gonna work. All the jacks are sort of kind of lined up. Okay. So let me show you what I came up with. I'm using a total of 4 jack stands. Currently, the subframe is already sitting on them. I lowered the lift enough. We have these 2 bigger jacks supporting the side-to-side motion, and then we have these 2 supporting the front and back. Initially, I was gonna do each corner, but I think this would work better. On the bright side, if I do die, you'll be the first to know. No, you won't be. I am gonna do my best to not be under the car while I unbolt these. Alright, so this one does not want to loosen. That is tight. Why is it so tight? Yeah, no, this is definitely going to snap if I try and keep... Maybe the subframe just shifted so much. It's completely seized. This thing is definitely going to snap if I keep going at it. I really don't want that to happen. Greetings, my fellow humans. That one subframe bolt basically became the bane of my existence. I exhausted pretty much all my options in terms of getting it out safely and properly. I've heated it up, I've used a breaker bar on it, and I'm pretty sure I'm more likely to break something like the breaker bar or the extension or the bolt itself than actually unscrew it. I don't know why that happened. Positive that it's my fault, because I have removed that subframe bolt in the past when I was trying to remove the oil pan by basically lowering the subframe. So I must have somehow, some way, I must have cross-threaded that bolt in. That's the only explanation I can come up with. That or the fact that somehow the subframe is just shifted in a way that it's putting so much pressure on the bolt that it can't spin. Because it seems like I have a little bit of space in there, like it's broken loose, but it's still stuck in there. Like the subframe is not squeezed against the body, but the bolt will not come out. If it breaks, fine. If it doesn't break, I'm gonna use an angle grinder and make it break. There's basically no other options in terms of getting that off. You can sort of kind of see that the bolt isn't fully on. So like I have broken it loose, but you can also sort of see that it's crooked. So it must be completely my fault. I have no other explanation for this. Yep, here it comes. I will have a hell of a time drilling it out, but that's gonna be tomorrow's problem. I don't wanna worry about this at the moment. This is yet another problem for future Artem, because that guy. The final 3 bolts are going to fully come out now. Very, very theoretically, once I push that up button on the lift, the engine is gonna stay right there. Well, things are definitely departing their home of many years. Okay. Oh no. Oh no. So this thing is completely off the jacks for some reason. The drive shaft is holding us. I do have to come back down until the subframe is supported, because I really don't want that falling on me. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. So here goes our drive shaft, and it is not separating. So that is a problem. It does appear that I forgot this coolant hose at the bottom of the tank, so please make sure not to forget that. There's another hose actually up top right here, so we gotta get that off. Now on to the more annoying and harder thing to do is the drive shaft. I have no idea how I'm gonna handle that. I am gonna try and use one of these guys to separate that. We shall see how that works. Yeah, so I think I am gonna undo this drive shaft support and see what, maybe that'll give me enough room to play around a little more. I don't want the drive shaft falling on my face. I probably should have taken off these 213s before anything else, before the 6 big ones, but what can I say? I'm just dumb. So under a cover, as I expected, we have the tunnel brace, or not the tunnel brace, we have the drive shaft brace, drive shaft carrier, to be more precise. And this is actually a very common failure point. As you can see, mine isn't looking so great. It is ripping in there, and that is exactly what happens with most of these. And once it completely fails, you get this absolutely terrible vibration inside the car because the drive shaft is just going nuts in here and bouncing around on the metal. And obviously you would get a lot of noises, a lot of vibrations, stuff like that. There's a very common and actually very effective, and even though it seems like a sketchy move, there's an effective solution for fixing this. And people would just insert hoses. They would cut up small sections of a hose and stick it in here between the 2 pieces of metal, which will fill it up and work as a very good bushing. Let's see what happens if you lift it up a little bit. So once again, at the moment, it looks like the subframe is secured by the jack stands, which is good. The drive shaft is lowering itself. I found another thing that needs to be worked on. As you can see, we have this little, I don't know, pretty useless brace as it seems, but it is bolted down to the body, and clearly the transmission is just gonna try and sit on it, which we do not want. Looks like there are 2 10mm bolts. Same thing on the other side. I guess I don't really have to pull it out. It's just gonna stay sitting on the subframe. That way I'll probably not forget it. So we definitely have the transfer case sitting on the back, but those front ones are not doing anything. So the front of the drivetrain must be hung up on something, and I have no idea what. Uh-oh. That's not good. You guys see that? That's a bolt I definitely missed. And there's probably one of these on the other side too. And I don't know how it's so loosened up, because I don't remember loosening it whatsoever. I'm gonna make a wild guess and say they're also 21mm. Well, that was pretty dumb of me, missing that. Very, very bad call. All right, where are you? There it is. He's right behind the axle. Is my arm going to get crushed? Stay tuned to find out. Perfect. Just to try and clear the axle. There we go. Okay, that's what we were looking for. Okay, I'm definitely seeing something I don't like. I did forget about a pretty major component. That is our steering. Hopefully it didn't break anything. So here you can get a pretty good look at that. That goes straight into the body to your steering wheel. I think I should be able to just undo this bolt, and I think it would slide out. I think this bolt might be 16. Okay. Yeah, there you go, come on. That should be able to just slide right off as we lift up the body. I'm gonna do a little line here and a little line there. Hopefully that doesn't come off. Let's go back to our drive shaft. I have no idea. Let's try and go up some more. I mean, it seems that things are staying down on the ground. Everything except the back. Yeah, that drive shaft is driving me nuts. I don't know what's wrong with it. I don't know how to get it out. Okay, now that this whole thing is lowered, let's say approximately 1 foot. It's definitely a little less than that, but let's just approximate. I can see the gear linkage, the gear shift linkage, that shiny little hose looking thing. Kind of looks like there's a decent amount of play in that. The drive shaft is basically sitting on this exhaust right now. Oh yeah, that is a lot of tension on this guy. We have to drop it. The entire rear of the drivetrain sitting on this exhaust, which is pulling down on these hangers. So theoretically, if I remove these two, we should have a little bit more playroom to let this drop down. And the exhaust comes down. It's still hanging on some stuff in the back, but I think that's fine. All right, let's carry on. Jesus Christ. Oh, that's not good. Look at that giant transmission. That is, holy crap. And obviously that rear, yeah, I didn't think that through too well. Let's use our jack. Hopefully we didn't break anything. Let's try and take care of the gear shift linkage so that we don't break anything. I'm gonna use these long extensions so that I don't have to get under the car too much. All right, looks like this is pretty standard. I think this is just a little ball joint that we can pop off. And then we would have to undo this bracket. I think that's about it. So there's this little clip. Yeah, there we go. That just slides out. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay. So this seems to be sliding out somewhat. So maybe we can force it with a pry bar now. Pry bar in. Oh yeah, try and line this up a little more. Oh yeah, oh yeah, nice. Woo! That is completely disconnected, and I genuinely think we're all done. Okay, I think things are looking pretty good. I'm just gonna shove that drive shaft a little further away, let it sit on the exhaust. That steering linkage is able to completely slide off. Oh. Well, that's not what's supposed to happen. That was supposed to come out over here. But okay, I guess. Hopefully it came off because it's designed to come off and not because it broke. Fingers crossed. But we definitely want to disconnect that ground. Oh geez, this looks so bad. Oh, that is moving. Okay, okay. Something's not looking right. Oh yeah, it's leaning hard to the left. Is there something holding it up over here? Oh, is it this guy? Oh God, that is terrifying. Yeah, that tie rod got hung up on the wheel. Okay, should be free. Oh, get out of there, dude. Get out. Okay. There we go. I did it. Oh, what did you guys think? That was one hell of a project. This was my first time ever dropping an engine with the subframe method rather than pulling it from the front. I've done that before. Hopefully when I come back, the engine is still sitting the way it is now. I would really hate for it to slide off and break. Not that this engine matters anymore. So I'm gonna have to take a pretty close look at these two engines, see how different they are. I knew for a fact that the alternator sits lower on the Phaeton. We can definitely see that here. Is it possible to just swap some brackets around and have this relocation complete? That is such a fat transmission. I'm still amazed by that. It's so big. It looks like a giant peanut. Our next steps would be to investigate whether or not this is a feasible swap. Something tells me, well, people in forums and Facebook groups are telling me that this is not gonna work, or that it's gonna be way more work than it is worth. So I am very, very doubtful about this working out. Luckily, this engine only cost me 250 bucks, so I'm not losing on a whole lot. Worst case, I can use this for parts, I can sell it for parts. or I can just keep the spare parts for the Touareg if I ever need them. However, for the first time I had a subscriber email me and offer me their Touareg, basically as an engine donor. So thank you, Ted. I'm very honestly, I was pretty happy to hear from a subscriber, especially a subscriber offering me their own car. I have never met a subscriber in real life yet, besides, you know, my friends and family that I've known before the channel. But it'd be cool to meet somebody through this channel. That sounds pretty cool to me. So maybe we're gonna do that. The problem with that is that buying a parts car in this situation would be very complicated. Obviously, the Touareg is currently not movable. It is taken up the lift. If I were to buy a parts car that I need to take the motor out of, I need to get this off of the lift. I only have one lift. I only have this much room. I would have to take this motor off the subframe, install the subframe into this Touareg, roll the Touareg out, then bring in the new Touareg, get it on the lift, pull the motor, take off that motor, install that subframe, roll this one out, roll in the old Touareg, get it on the lift, take off the subframe, install the new motor, put it back together, and then potentially just cross my fingers and hope that it's fixed and I am able to drive it out of here. Basically, it's possible, but it would be such a headache. And it would also mean that I have to do this job twice, which would be much quicker since now I have the experience. I know what to look out for. I know how to do everything, more or less. Not to mention something that's gonna keep me up at nights, and it's that one subframe bolt. This is gonna be a nightmare. Let's see, I believe it's this one right here. Yep, you can see it hiding in there. I have to completely drill that out and rethread it or tap it, whatever that's called. In the next episode, I'm gonna be figuring out what the differences between these two engines are, and potentially I'll be buying a new Touareg. So if you enjoyed this content, or if you're interested in seeing what happens in the future with this shit show, please subscribe. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a good day.